Welcome back to the Daily Dean. Eat the rich, phrase you may have heard that I marginally agree with. So, what does that really mean? That's what we're going over today. So, if you believe that what I'm going to say is communist, you're wrong. Redistributing the wealth is not communist, is not communism. That's a whole different subject. Redistributing the wealth in terms, eating the rich, that's how I interpret it, because it is a little bit of a dramatic, phrase, eat the rich. Sounds kind of like satire, but the point is, eat the rich means giving, stop giving the super ultra mega wealthy rich tax breaks, refunds, or whatever, right? Because once again, actually, let me emphasize rich. Well, what do I mean by that? I don't mean if you live in a gated community or a two-story house or a three-story house or whatever. I mean like Jeff Bezos and Amazon and billionaires who have made, doubled their profits, Amazon specifically, and made billions of dollars, billionaires specifically, during the pandemic. How can our government let that slide, let that stuff just go on, happen, while hundreds of thousands of people lose their homes? And their only form of support is a $600 check that took, it was weeks, I believe, to pass. How can corporations how can supporting corporations instead of America, its general people, be acceptable? There's more to that. I already know the answer to that question. It's because corporations they have their hands in politics. Now, I don't mean that conspiracy-wise. You can see the people who are being paid, the politicians who are being lobbied by Amazon or oil companies or fossil fuel companies or whatnot, which shows you it was cool videos I've been watching. Oh, you might think, oh, Dean, that sounds very communist. Why are you being so anti-American? I'm pro-me. I'm just trying to pay for college. I'm just trying to find a house. Later on when I grow up. Because seeing the state of things right now does not make me very hopeful for when I'm going to be an adult. How do you pay for college, for tuition, for things that are so exorbitantly priced, it seems outlandish that I ever amount to such amount of cash? It feels like things are pitted against us, that things are that the system in parentheses being, the decades of years, basically accumulating more and more wealth in the wealthy, and, preventing an adequate infrastructure for supporting the general people who are not the super ultra mega wealthy rich. It just seems unfair, right? It just feels like if we had some way to be like the other developed nations with public healthcare, with higher education, with, public higher education, with, other cool developed things, it just feels like things would be a lot more nicer. And if you disagree with that, I actually completely understand, right? This stuff is kind of very emotionally charged for me. And if you disagree, once again, I think I mentioned this. If I didn't, you can feel free to dislike this video or even, comment and say what you believe. Because I am open to all perspectives, but it feels like the perspective that I'm taking on or reflecting the most, is the one that adequately reflects what I believe or what I've been, possibly convinced to believe. And if I feel like I've been convinced incorrectly, then I'd be more than happy to change my views. This is related to that. Opinions are not personality traits, right? You may be hearing that and thinking, wow, Dean, doesn't your whole channel revolve around opinions? No, it revolves around facts, right? Stuff like astronomy, stuff like psychology, that's cool and whatnot. But opinions and, my enthusiasm and stuff, those are things that should be passed along with the currents. There's a great CGP Grey video on that, I mentioned him before, who says that opinions are kind of like, names in a bag. You pick them up as you go along and then toss them out when they're no longer of use to you. Say that you had opinion that, different races were subspecies to your own race. Wow, that's a pretty strong opinion. You should probably toss that out if a better opinion comes along, right? Because I've met people who have that opinion. It's not fun. So, if you think that your opinions are a personality trait, that's rough. Reorient your standings. While that does sound a little bit hypocritical of me saying, because I've been a little bit invested personally in this, but mostly just because it personally affects me, right? Being a not super ultra mega wealthy rich. That's basically all this stuff I have to share. And oh, actually, you know what? I totally forgot to mention this. The stock market. If you guys have been keeping up, my brother texted me about this. It was basically like GameStop and hedge funds trying to accumulate more wealth for the super mega ultra wealthy rich through the stock market, and then a bunch of like a collective in quotation marks, because it's more of a loose organized effort of people trying to stop that, or trying to bankrupt the hedge fund, trying to accumulate more wealth into the super mega ultra wealthy class of rich people. So that was an interesting thing. If you think that's interesting, you probably look it up. I should have explained it, but that's all I have to share. So eat the rich, and goodbye. Have a great week.